Question 23 is a trig equation. Now we need to solve this in a given domain here. Now it's got a couple of tricks. The first trick is that we have to rearrange it so that we've got cos of 2 theta by itself. So we need to divide both sides by root 2 here. So that's my first step. But even before I begin that step, I would actually write down the new domain, not for theta, but for 2 theta, because we've got a little bit of a trick there, given that we're finding the cosine of a combined angle here, 2 theta. So we've got to double theta to get 2 theta, and it makes sense to double the 0, well that's still 0, but double the 2 pi to get 4 pi. And that means that when we're looking for our solution in the quadrants, we need to go around the circle not just once, but twice. We need to do 2 laps. Because then when we find our solutions on the second lap and halve them, they'll still fit into that domain that we've been given for theta. So if I know that the cos of some angle is negative 1 over root 2, my first step after that is to find the related angle for this 2 theta. Now when I say related, ask yourself, the cos of something is 1 over root 2. Leave the negative out of it and just think about the first quadrant answer. Now I know that the cos of 45 degrees, or pi on 4, is equal to 1 over root 2. And you can jot that fact down in the margin if you want to help you. So I know my answer is going to be a lot like pi on 4, but this negative tells me that when I think of my all stations to central, I know that cos is positive here and here, so it's going to be negative here and here in the second and the third quadrants. So I'm looking for an angle that's like pi on 4 in the second and third quadrant, and I need to do 2 laps. So 2 theta must be, well, how do you put pi on 4 over here? Well, think about pi, because that's 180 degrees, minus pi on 4. That will give you 3/4 of a pi. I actually think of it as 1 pi minus 1/4 of a pi makes 3/4. And 1 pi plus 1/4 of a pi makes 5/4. Now to go around and do the second lap, because we need to find not just in the first 2 theta, but all the way around 4 theta. So in the second lap, you're really just adding 360 degrees or 2 theta to both of your solutions. And the easiest way to do that is to remember that if we're dealing in quarters, 2 pi in quarters is 8/4 of a pi. That way I can just add 8/4 on here and add 8/4 on there. So 5 becomes 13. Now I just need to halve everything so that I've got theta instead of 2 theta. So instead of having quarters, what's half of a quarter? An eighth. I can keep the same numerators and just make them eighths now instead of quarters, and I'm there. And then last step is just to double check that all of your answers really do fit into the domain that you've been given. Is 13/8 pi less than 2 pi? Yeah, because 16/8 would be 2 pi, wouldn't it? So it's still fitting in. And there should be 4 solutions here. Now there's 3 marks for this question. The first mark would just be finding something to do with the pi on 4, perhaps. And then you'd have either 2 marks, one for getting all of those. If you didn't get the other one, you'd miss a mark. Or some people will get all of these, but fail to take it to that next step.